Hi, everybody. Jim Nowakowski here for Interline Creative Group. This is our webinar on making more sense of social media. It's a big topic these days, isn't it? Can you make sense of it? Maybe not, huh? So welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here. This presentation is copyright by Interline Creative Group. If you email me when we're done and you need to, I will send you a PDF copy of the slides for your reference. This course is approved by the AIA. We're a provider of the AIA. They reviewed it and approved it, as did the IDCEC. They also reviewed it and approved it, and so did the NKBA. So for architects, designers, and we've got a lot of business professionals that are not affiliated with necessarily design out there in the audience, and we're so glad you're all here. You all have different needs, but the one thing we all need is to understand how the heck to use these social media channels for business. And a lot of you are already on some of them. Some of you are new startups, but you've been on social media for your personal stuff. This is about business and social media, because the world of social media is still generating attention and interest and changing and moving and migrating. You heard what happened to TikTok, right? The government closed it down, and then with the recent election, they opened it up again. So if you were on TikTok, you were out of luck for a day or so. You couldn't communicate on that channel, which is one of the things we're going to talk about. Because one of the things you're going to learn today, ladies and gentlemen, is that the most important social media channel is your website. Well, Jim, I didn't know that websites are social media platforms. Well, of course they are. Anything on the internet is almost a platform. We're going to talk about that. So the webinar is going to clarify the platforms and the leading platforms, et cetera, because a lot has changed since COVID. You remember the days before COVID? I remember when social media was created. But we're going to talk about all of this and more. And here are some learning objectives. When you're done with this course, you're going to walk away with a clear definition of social media, what it is and what it is not. You're going to learn that listening is equally or more important than just broadcasting on a channel. Listening, as Don Tickle, one of the great salesmen of all time, taught me, you don't learn anything by talking. Now, that's true, isn't it? So it's going to include reviews of the social media channels, and we're going to review guidelines on the successful strategies you can create. Ladies and gentlemen, without strategy, you and I are nothing. Just to be posting and throwing stuff out, seeing what sticks, that's not strategy. So we'll use some examples in real life of what happens. And we'll show you how to develop a plan, beginning with audiences that you want to target, etc. Strategy, audience targeting, and ways to keep people interested in what the heck you're saying. And through the use of examples, you're going to gain the tools to get started with social media. Now, as I said, you're already started. So, Jim, what can you teach me? Well, hopefully, I could suggest some things. Having been a teacher of English many, many years ago, right? That was my majors, philosophy, theology, English. I've been in business over 30 years successfully. We grew our business from me to 25 people. One of the things I learned is that you need the right people around you, but you should never stop learning. You have to be lifelong learners. And hopefully we can teach you a trick or two. I'd like to start out with a story. Before COVID, before anything like that, my wife and I were in Las Vegas and we went to see the Jersey Boys. I don't know even know if they're still playing there, but we went there, and it was a fantastic performance. You know, coming from Chicago, where I grew up, after the performance, I'm on my feet, more. And of course, there was no more. And people were saying, look, what are you, crazy? They're not going to come back out. I said, well, in Chicago, they always come out. And if you give them applause enough, they're going to come out and do another song, but they didn't. In any case, there was a guy who was playing Frankie Valli, Travis Clower. So the next day we were shopping in Las Vegas, and I decided, well, my wife was in one of the stores, I'm going to hop on Twitter, and I found this guy, and I tweeted I was there in the audience last night. You guys were great. Within seconds, ladies and gentlemen, within seconds. Not only did Travis respond, his fan club from Arizona responded, the Travis Clover fan club. It was unbelievable. And that was before COVID. We had a 5-minute Twitter conversation, which is now called X because Elon Musk bought it. You can't do that in any other medium, any social media platform, right? And we're going to talk about that. And that's one of the benefits of social media platforms is that they are what? Almost instantaneous. They are instantaneous. Now, I was just lucky and fortunate that he was on the platform X, Twitter at the time. And when I tweeted my tweet, that we had a nice conversation. But that's true of even today. So you can touch anybody and you can be touched by anybody through these platforms. And these moments are what social media is all about. So let's start out with the definition of what social media is. What is this? Socrates, who taught Aristotle and Plato, very wise Greek, he said, the beginning of all wisdom is to define your terms. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the problems of society today. By the way, nobody defines their terms. When they throw terms out there and they don't define them, how the hell do you know what you're talking about? So what is social media? If you look it up online, it's going to tell you that it's a form of electronic communication, like websites, including websites, through which users create online communities, share information, blah, 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 right? It's communication. So social is an adjective. Remember, I told you I'm an English teacher, modifying the word media. Social media. Media is mass communication. Television is media. The internet is media. Newspapers, God help, they're dying breed, aren't they? Our media, etc. So every channel, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, those are all media. Social is regarding society, and it means social being an organization of mass communication is the media, and we want to be social. Right? So social media is just Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, right? That's all social media is, right? Wrong. Think about this before we answer that question and why it's wrong. When radio was invented, okay, it took 38 years to get 50 million users. I want you to think about this. There's some excellent PBS documentaries on radio and the growth of radio. And why did it take so long? Can you guess? Yes, exactly. I see some answers coming in. It took so long because not everybody had a radio. Well, TV took 13 years to get 50 million. And I was around, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an older guy, when they invented TV, right? I was born in the age of radio, but by the time I was 5, 6, 7 years old, they invented TV. Now, I wasn't in advertising at the time, but I read stories afterwards that advertising agency, when they invented TV were holding secret meetings. Why? Because they realized they could put a box in every home in the United States and broadcast what? Commercials. And if you're a student of early television, you know that commercials were integrated into the content of the story itself. You should think about that. Well, iPod, remember the iPod? Who uses an iPod these days? Internet, Facebook, Twitter. Today, everyone, you're going to see, everyone carries a phone, which is a broadcast tool, just like the radio. You don't need 38 years to reach 50 million people. If you're online, depending on your followers, or even your not your followers, if you just push content out there, you have just as good a chance as I did for reaching, one of the Jersey boys, Travis Clover. You have just as good a chance as being seen and heard by him as anyone else does. Twitter only took less than a year to reach 50 million people, and TikTok almost in a day. TikTok reached 50 million people in a day. And look at how many people TikTok reaches now, or Facebook. So, in other words, it started with oral tradition. Well, Jim, did you see this going on? And then if you weren't in my cave with me, if you were in another cave, you never heard what I was talking about. Oral tradition, right? And then print came along, and then radio came along, and then TV and the internet and social media, and it started condensing time. So when you condense time, you do something weird. I don't know how much you know about the theory of relativity, right? But one of the only one of the only constants in nature, pardon me, is in fact the speed of light. It takes 16 minutes for sunlight to reach the earth, which means if the sun blew up, you wouldn't know it for 16 minutes. The closest star is like what, 1 point something light years away, and that's the distance light travels. These are phenomenal things. If you put out a post on Instagram or on TikTok, if you put out a post, it's instantaneous almost when the people get it. If they're on the channel. If the channel is on, they get it. And even if it's not on, if they go to the channel later on, the channel reminds you what you missed. Here's what you missed, Jim. Isn't that we are truly in an amazing thing. Every minute of every day, I took this slide courtesy of eDiscovery. Every minute, you got 2.4 million Google searches. Look at this. 2.5 million searches every minute, right? 2.5 million. Tweets, they say tweets, but it's X, right? X. Text messages, 18.8 million text messages every minute. Do you have a headache? I have a headache. I have a headache. I have a headache. So, your goal is not only to figure out these tools, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and the rest. Your goal should be to rethink your marketing practices and how to use the best tools for what you're trying to do, which is really, in our case, business. Should you use Instagram over other channels? Should you use X? Should you use TikTok? Communication 101. Senders and receivers, ladies and gentlemen. You can be a sender or you can be a receiver, and chances are you are both, right? On social media, you send and you receive. Every platform is like that. It doesn't really matter. You post something on YouTube, you're sending out your video. Some people will receive it, but you are, in fact, the sender. And then there's the message. And sometimes that message gets what? Misinterpreted. Why? Because not everybody understands what you're defining this word or that post as. And you know this. I'm not telling anything you don't know. The wrong post can cause a great deal of commotion, and then you end up spending your time justifying what you said, right? So, put it mildly, 4.8 billion social media, there's billions of people on these platforms. People use an average of 6.66 different networks every month. Here's the networks: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, etc. How many do you use? Well, it depends, Jim. I don't know. I use only one or two. Well, that's good. But are you using the right ones? That's what we're going to talk about. Look at the time investment. 2 hours, 24 minutes daily media. Think about it. Keep a diary. Keep a social media diary on how often you check your phone, how often you check your channels. Well, that's time consuming, Jim. I don't know if I have time to do that. Well, make the time. That's what I do. For example, when I post, I use different tools to go on there and post for the week and then sit back and let the tool do the posting. And then when I want to visit and see if I've got any analytics to that, I'll go online, check the analytics, and you're trying to use your time wisely. TikTok is the most popular social platform in terms of time spent. On average, global users, right, spend 31 hours on TikTok. I want you to listen to this. A fixed time is fixed for you, which if you don't use it to clear away the clouds from your mind, it's going to go and you'll go and it will never return. Marcus Aurelius, a great thinker, said that. So you only have a limited amount of time. People talk about water or, being a limited resource, right? There's limited resources, fossil fuels, limited resources, right? But the wind is everywhere, right? Except when the wind doesn't blow, then it's not even a resource. Time is the only limited, not only limited, but it's only it's not renewable. You will not get more time than you have. Do you want me to repeat that? That's why I'm so grateful you're here spending an hour with me. I really am. And I'm very grateful because I'm investing an hour in you, trying to help you understand how to get through this time constraint, because you do not have an unlimited amount of time. So I want to concentrate on social media for business. I know many people who just use it for personal posts. They confuse personal and business. Your first rule is don't do that. Keep your personal stuff out. Out. Create a new identity for your personal stuff. Create your business identity for business stuff. You got to keep it separate. It's not like The Godfather. It's just business. It's not personal, Sonny. It's just business, right? Is it? Or is business personal with you? If you're a one-person firm, it's very personal. Even if you work for a 300 person firm, what you do is personal. So it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to separate business from personal, but you have to. You have to understand business is business. It has nothing to do with how I feel about you, whether I like you, whether you like me. It's business. The secret to social media, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is listening, not talking. I'm not saying that you should never post. You have to post. You have to create a dialogue. But how many of you take the time to just listen? Not just listen to what people are telling you in your identity on these channels, but what they're telling other people. Example, Gensler is one of the leading architects in the world, and they have a wonderful newsletter that they put out every couple of weeks. It's called Dialogue. You should subscribe to it, especially if you're an architect or you're in design. Now, Gensler is a leading architectural firm in the world. And what they put out in that newsletter are, guess what? Ideas. You have ideas. I have ideas. But they throw these ideas out there. Why? They're looking for business. They're looking for business. They distribute it through the email. They post it on their website. And therein, ladies and gentlemen, lies one of the secrets of our course. Integration. You cannot use one channel. You can't. You shouldn't. You have to integrate all your channels, because I'll give you the reason why. You don't know where your audience is going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could tell you that I know for sure where your audience is going to end up, which channel they're using at any given time, well, that's all you need. And then you just talk to your audience. But that's not the way it works. People get busy, they forget, they got to be reminded. It takes six contacts, ladies and gentlemen, six, to really get a lead going. One call ain't going to do it unless this person desperately needs what you're selling. And you're all selling something, whether you're selling services, because that's what we're talking about. And where I brought in the personal idea is you're selling yourself. The way you look on your website, what you say, how you say it, you're selling yourself. So listen, decide, and then act. And here's my buddy Marcus Aurelius again. Ask yourself every moment, is this necessary? Do I really need to watch these stupid videos in my feed? Right? Do I need to really watch these cats and dogs? Do I really need that? Here's another thing to think about: the accuracy or the reliability of what you're looking at. Is it true? Especially with AI nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be very careful, very careful. Jim Mattis, former Secretary of Defense, digital technologies can falsely encourage remote staffs to believe they possess a God's eye view of combat, but digital technologies do not dissipate confusion. The fog of war can actually thicken when misinformation is implied, instantly amplified. This is from his great book, Call Sign Chaos. In other words, BS, right? When it's BS, it's instantly, the channel doesn't know if it's broadcasting the truth, does it? Does it? Does any channel know the minute you put out a post, is it true or is it false? It doesn't. You decide. You have to decide. So one of the things you must, if you're going to be a thought leader, you can only speak the truth. You can't rely on hearsay, like the lawyers say. You can't rely on this guy saying that. Now, if you cite something and you put the source in there, which is what AI is doing, we're going to talk about that today, that's different. But your integrity, your truthfulness is what's important. Because the real problem is, here's the real problem. If everyone thinks they're a kitchen and bathroom designer or whatever, we have a lot of different people in the audience, because of the internet, how do you expect them to react to you when you tell them you are a kitchen and a bathroom designer or an architect or whatever, right? How do you expect them to react when suddenly you've been commoditized, right? How do you think they're going to react? Well, you have to differentiate, which is what we're going to talk about. Because if you're competing with billions of people on the internet, how do you stand out through all the noise, lots of noise? How do you stand out? It takes 6 to 8 touches to generate a sales lead. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about a business. We're talking about interest. Most of your business, ladies and gentlemen, like most of my business, comes from referrals. People refer you. We just got 3 new clients at the end of last year, not through our wonderful social media strategy, which is pretty good, but through referrals. Through referral. That's right. And that's why it's important to stay out there with the social media channels. Because when you get referred to by someone, when somebody refers you, what do you think they check out? First thing they check out is your website. And the next thing they check out is your social media. What is this person saying? I'm going to repeat this throughout the webinar. Your website is the single most important marketing tactic you have. Your website is the single most important marketing tactic you have. No, I'm not going to repeat it over and over, but your website is. There's nothing more important. Why? Because you control it. It's you. And that's what people see. They see you when they hit your website. And just look at all the websites out there. I remember when websites were first created, when the internet was invented, they used to cost $100,000 to create a website. And agencies would actually get that. And now GoDaddy will do it to you for pennies on the dollar. But that you don't want pennies on the dollar website. You need a robust website that demonstrates your differentiation in the field you're in. The phone, we have a webinar on phone, is your greatest overlooked social media asset. Well, Jimmy, phone is not a social media channel. Really? What are you carrying in your pocket or purse, right? You're carrying a phone. It's not just for texting. It's not just for looking at the internet or YouTubing. It's for talking to people. Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing more expressive than the human voice. Well, maybe facial expressions, but barring that, you can tell from the human, and that's what our phone webinar is about, is just, can you tell that I'm jumping around the room when I'm talking to you now? I'm not every day in South Carolina. Yeah, I'm not just this, I'm excited. I'm running around. Social media channels are next as listening tools. Remember, they're listening tools. You want to know what's going on? Hop on social media. You want to know what's going on? Hop on Google. Go to ChatGPT. Ask around. Listen. Formulate your own thoughts and then utilize them to differentiate yourself. Therein lies the whole structure of this webinar, right? Your real advantage is your website. So make your website relevant. Overcoming fear. Be open to discourse. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. This means you got to be open. You got to respect all the channels. 70% of B2B people get their information from Google searches. How's your SEO? Because if your SEO sucks, you're not on a Google search when people are looking for what you do, right? Pay attention to that. If 70% of people go to Google first, which they do, probably more these days, and they type in something into the search criteria, Google, which has indexed your website, remember, Google indexes constantly, constantly. They're indexing, they're putting things in there, and they're delivering what, when people ask Google for something, they deliver something. They deliver a result. If you're not in that result, and by the way, the results they're delivering now are preceded by AI. They've got AI running on Google. So Google's AI is taking over some of the results, but as you scroll down, you can actually see some of the results from other people's websites. And by the way, AI sources, right? Their answers. They have to. So B2B, many audiences influence the products and your path to purchase. That makes discourse very difficult because each audience's needs are different. It's hard to talk to everybody. One of the great mistakes of advertisers is they formulate one message and they tell it to everybody. In fact, when everybody doesn't want to hear the same thing the same way. But the good news is you can tailor your messages to audience. For example, if you know more people are using Instagram than they are LinkedIn, and Instagram audiences are very different than LinkedIn audiences, you can talk to them differently about whatever the heck you're selling, right? And sometimes it's just more convenient to do the way the things have done. It's, oh, let's just send a blast email to my list, knowing that in that list, everybody is a little bit different. That's not the way to do it. In fact, today, people are using multiple channels. They're not just on one channel. So what do? Talk to your customers by phone. What do you use a lot of, excuse me, Mr. Customer, do you use a lot of social media? What do you use social media for? Look at research. Send them something in the mail. Do you know how bad the U.S. Postal Service is? Of course it is. That doesn't preclude you from using it. Does it? Well, I don't want to use something that's bad. Well, why not? If you send something in the mail and it shows up on the desk of your target, or if you FedEx it, ooh, FedEx isn't mail, is it, Jim? Well, of course it is. For prospects, do the same thing. You have to jump, take the jump, because absolute rest is death. If you don't do nothing, business will die. You got to do something. Just look what happened in COVID. In COVID, do you know how many businesses, died because they were forced not to do something? They should have done something, but they believed they shouldn't do anything, and they died. We've survived the crash of '09, 9/11 before that, COVID, and we're still standing. So I'm telling you right now, Interline is doing something right. And what is that? Strategy. We change. We're not the same company we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. You're always changing, and you have to adapt to that change. Understanding the transition from 30 seconds to bullet points. Oh, Jim, don't use long copy, for heaven's sakes. People don't read anything anymore. Holy mackerel. I hear that every day from clients. But guess what? Would you rather be operated by the doctor who read the bullet points or the book? Tell me that. Tell me that. Not only that, who's the doctor who practiced what he read over and over and over again? That's the idea. You have to practice. There is no rule that short copy should always be used. That rule does not exist. I can give you an example. We just did a case study which was 8 pages long for a client. 8 pages of heavy, heavy content, right? It's pictures, of course, but it was 8 pages. And we sent it to the architect that we interviewed for approval. This was on an HVAC product. And when I sent that to the architect and I told the client, he said, "You did what?" I said, "I sent it to the architect." He says, "They're not, what did you do that for? They're not going to read all that." I said, "Well, I hate to tell you this, but he not only read it, when I called him after, because I sent it to him before I called him, he had everything prepared from that case history that he wanted to tell me about the project that I was interviewing him about." Ladies and gentlemen, people read. They don't read everything. I'm not saying they're going to read every word that you write, but they're going to read certain things, and you got to know when to use long copy, when to use short copy. In digital, you can always go deeper. Why? Because there's no limit, right? It's your website. And remember this, Google reads everything. Google doesn't care if it's short or long, doesn't even care about the language it's written in. Google's going to read it. It doesn't read pictures unless you put descriptions of them or captions in them or meta tags in them because it can't see pictures. It's like the movie Predator, where Arnold Schwarzenegger puts mud on himself and then the alien can't see him, right? Remember that? Well, Google can't see pictures, but it reads everything, every word. And unless you move your page, it's going to index that page, and that's going to result in better SEO. So in social, you should listen to your prospects and channels, and then write some blogs. This is what you do. Write blogs. If you don't have a blog on your website, create a blog on your website. Content is this is the battle. You're in a battle not for architectural services, not for design services, none of that. No matter what you're selling, you think you're selling just products? No. You're selling products, but you're in a content war. And you got to fight the content war with content. You don't fight it with pictures, just pictures. So publish articles. You have to assume a leadership position. You have to keep moving. Absolute rest is death. Jim, you keep saying absolute rest is death. Well, I didn't say that. There was a mathematician named Blaise Pascal who said that. Absolute rest is death. So keep moving. Negative can be positive if you've ever had a negative review, because it's called listening and then adapting. For example, we did an email campaign for a client that resulted in one of our programmers running into my office saying, Jim, there's a guy on the phone and he's totally ticked off. He is so ticked off. I put, calm down. Let me talk to him. They transferred the call. I got him on the phone. He said, Jim, he couldn't talk. He was so ticked off. I want to know where you got my name. And I said, calm down, Charlie, calm down. I said, you're off the list. I know why you're calling. You want to be taken off of our list. So email it. No. I just got to know where you got my name. So I said, we got it from our client who's in the construction business, and he got it from a service that he subscribes to. And then there was silence. Silence is an interesting concept, isn't it? So I could say there was a silence for a minute and then wait a minute, but then I would waste a minute. But it was a long silence. It was at least 5 to 10 seconds. And I said, Charlie, are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. I said, I'm going to take, no, that's okay. Listen, I want to thank you. I said, you want to thank me? He goes, yeah, I want to thank you. He says, I've been trying to figure out where all these emails today are coming from. I've been pulling my hair out trying to figure this out. And you're the only guy who talked to me and told me. I said, well, I'll be happy. That's what I'm here for. I want to answer questions. I said, but you're off the list. He said, good, but let me tell you who to put on the list. I go, what do you mean? He says, I'm not the guy you want. The guy you want, in fact, is Alexander so-and-so over there. And he gave me his email, gave me his phone. He's the guy you want to talk to for your client's products. I said, Charlie, you're a gem. Thank you so much. Can I send you a Starbucks card? He says, you don't have to, but I did it anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, those are those moments Those are those moments that I'm talking about. And the phone that proves is a social media channel. You can't do that in an email. All you do in an email when a person doesn't want to get your emails, he hits the unsubscribe button. He hits unsubscribe. This was an opportunity. And you have to take advantage of these opportunities. So he gave me the guy who, by the way, was controlling a major retailer's stores. And my client wanted to get their product in those stores. So listening, don't go into crisis mode. Oh my God, the sky is falling. Forget about that. Listen to people, listen to webinars. You'll learn so much. Pick the right webinars. React to webinars. Publish a paper on the webinar you listen to. Publish your notes on the webinar. Content, content, content. Overcome your fear. Know your brand identity so well. Don't try to be everybody to everything, but stay true to who you are. Because we've seen clients in the last 30 years repeatedly when they forget their core competency, they just screw up and they go south. They go south with their business. So here's what to do. Research. You should be doing research all the time. This webinar is research. I'm giving you the insights of our 30 plus years in business. Hopefully, some of them are new to you. Some of them you've heard before. It really, I mean, we're all in this together, how to survive this business climate. So instead of bemoaning your phone, oh, the phones are, remember after 9/11, the phones didn't ring. Everything stopped. The planes stopped flying, business stopped. It was unbelievable. Same thing with COVID. It's crazy, right? You have to do that. We knew a contractor. We had a major client who sells bidet seats, right? And when COVID struck, bidet seat sales through retailers like Costco spiked, went through the roof. So he hired us to do research, and I told him, I said, "Let me save you some money." He says, "No. We got to know why it's spiking." I said, "Well, there's no toilet paper. You remember this, right? There's no toilet paper, so people want to be hygienic, right? So they buy bidet seats." So, and don't forget, retailers were not shut down. Big retailers like Walmart, they didn't shut down. So we did the research and proved that, in fact, it was because of that, not just toilet paper, but people wanted to be hygienic, right? So we did that. And during the research, we found a contractor in Kansas City who bought out the distributor's bidet seats and sold them within 3 days because he sensed this opportunity. You have to be open to this stuff, right? Bill Robinson, the guy who taught me copywriting, said, "Jim, just give them what they want." I said, "But Bill, what about what they need?" He said, "Forget that. Give people what they want and practice. If you fail fast, keep going. Ready, aim, fire." Today, we're doing ready, fire, aim, fire again. Today, we're doing fire, fire, fire. Just keep firing. Fire, right? Just keep posting content. Because sometimes, unless pricing is in line across your channels, you can get into a sticky situation, which we have seen with our clients. For example, when a distributor buys a distributor, sometimes the company who buys the distributor goes behind the wall and finds out they were getting a better price for a client's product than they were. And then all hell breaks loose, right? Because you have to be aware of this. So here's some guidelines for the rest of this seminar. You need a plan. Jump it. You can Google, how do you write a social media marketing plan? Just Google it. You'll get a lot of ideas. But you want to research specific platforms. LinkedIn is different than Instagram. Well, I'm a designer, Jim, and I love Instagram. That's great to love it, but do you get any business from it? And I know. I'm going to get emails that say yes, 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 yes. And then I'm going to get emails that say, no, 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 I don't get any business from it. So why do you still do it? And even if you do get business from it, what kind of business is it? Who's on Instagram? Not just who follows you, who goes to Instagram? Have you heard of Houzz, Houzz, right? Of course you have. That's the largest picture database, I think, on the internet of homes, of what people do with their homes. It's fantastic. Right? But did you know that people who go there don't hire designers necessarily? They do hire contractors, but not designers. Don't be afraid to look at what other people are doing and say, how can I repurpose what they're doing? Anticipate, react, adapt. Those three words, embed them in your mind. Those were Alexander the Great's strategy. He did conquer the known world. You anticipate, you react, and then you adapt your reaction. That's the key, right? So if somebody posts something, you anticipate what you should say, you post it, there's a reaction, and then you adapt it and write it down. And you can Google today in the age of disruption. There's a nice post that I did. Who's your audience? You can't sell to everybody. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, everybody doesn't need your service. I wish they did, but they don't. They only need it at specific time. In fact, we've evolved from being a full service marketing agency, right, to a specialty agency. We specialize in certain tactics of marketing. Why? Well, that's the way it rolls, right? We adapted to that. Can we do everything a regular full service marketing agency does? Of course we can. But somehow through the results of up and back, people see us as problem solvers. Lots of problems. What kind of problems? Well, for one problem, we ended up making, metal plates in China for a client. We solve a lot of different problems for a marketing agency. I'm just saying. But know your audience. Poll your audience constantly. Find out who they are. Read their posts. Well, my clients are residential clients. They don't post anything. Really? Are you kidding me? They don't post? They don't use social media? That's what I was telling you about listening. Listening is the greatest tactic to find out what people are really thinking. Because they don't put the garbage up there, some of them do, but they put out what they really think, especially when you go on LinkedIn. And then call them, engage them, mail them something. Proper time and resources. I told you, you don't have all the time in the world. You've got to structure it so that you're disciplined in time and practice. You can't do everything. I hired 5 people and I still can't catch up. Well, good. Even if you hired 10 people, you're not going to have enough. Why? Because it's an everlasting, what's the insatiable? That's the word. Social media posting is insatiable. It's never, ever, ever satisfied. So if you can't devote the needed amount of time, you may need to go outside. And that's where some of our business comes in. We help clients with their posts. We write them, they approve them, we deploy them. And there's nothing wrong with seeking outside help if it's important to you. And for certain clients, it's important. For other clients, they just pull it in-house and have somebody in the office do it, which is fine. You can't be all things to all people, but you can be a thing to someone who needs what you're doing, what you're selling. Sleep less. I know. There's a guy now that just got an office that never sleeps. No matter what you think of this guy, he's got a tremendous advantage because he doesn't sleep. He gets extra 5 hours than you and I do. I want to sleep less, but I can't. I need my sleep. So I exercise. After this webinar, I'm going to the gym. Don't hire your family. Well, what do you mean? Be careful. Don't hire. I'm not saying your cousin, your daughter is not talented, but when you hire them, something changes. The equation changes. It changes. Join things virtually. Build relationships, right? We want to build relationships. Smile. Through the phone, people can detect if you're smiling or not. Take our phone webinar. Call your manufacturers that you specify, recommend. Call them up. What do you got lately that's good? What do you got lately that I can share with my clients? Engage people, talk to them, right? And post. If you're not selling, you should be posting and writing. Should I repeat that? If you're not selling something, If you're not on the phone selling something, if you're not at a webinar selling something, if you're not at a trade show selling something or picking up information, you should be posting and writing content. Well, Jimmy, I can't write. Well, learn how to write. Hire somebody to write. You don't learn anything by talking. Listen all the time. I went to the doctor's office today, and what did I do? I was listening to people's conversations. You were eavesdropping, Jimmy, right? No, I wasn't eavesdropping. I was listening. And what did you learn? You want to know what I learned? Right? I learned one person had to talk on a speakerphone to make an appointment, and all I heard for the next 5 minutes was "you're on hold" and the redundant "you're on hold" information. Press one for this, one for that. Now, I didn't say anything because it's a public space. That's their right. But you listen and you learn. So, right? Conference calls, Zoom meetings. Have a panel discussion. Join a panel. I just joined a financial webinar that's going to happen later this month. I got an invitation. It looked good to me. I'm going to join it and I'm going to listen. Everybody wants to know what the hell's going on with financial stuff, right? And how does it affect your business? You better believe it affects your business. AI is going to have a profound effect, if not already, on your business. Here's an example. This is early social media. Somebody posted that on the bottom there and said the JCPenney pot, right? Trouble brewing for the retailer. The kettle, the teapot kettle, the hot water kettle looks like Hitler. Are you kidding me, right? So this happens all the time. People publish bullshit. I'm sorry, stuff like this, right? And so what happened? What did Penny do? They responded to it. They didn't take it off. They just responded to it. Totally unintentional, certainly unintended, totally unintentional. And they had it set up so that whenever anybody posted something, they would tweet with a simple message, right? Totally unintentional, totally unintentional. And guess what? They sold all their teapots. Everybody wanted a teapot. So be sensitive. Listen. A small issue can become crazy, right? Brands and crisis. You can have a crisis. Look what happened during COVID with the Budweiser, right? That post that took Budweiser sales down, crashing down. And over time, they'll slowly get back because they're beer and they're Budweiser. But, these things happen. People react instantly now. That's why you should keep it in business. Keep it to business. You are your own creative director. How powerful is it? Growing audiences are on it, social media influences. It's addictive. That's where you can lose yourself in time, right? But don't forget, it's a listening tool, not just a posting tool. And which one should you go to? Well, it depends on where you think your audience is hanging out. If you're on the channels, use them. Don't be afraid of failing. If you're not on, join them. I joined Facebook when it first started, right? But I didn't post anything. And I had a client come over and he said, I wanted to bring the press release I want you to send out to the media channels, but I didn't, I posted it on Facebook. I said proudly, I'm on Facebook. So I hopped on Facebook and he looks at my page and he goes, Jim, you don't have any followers. I go, I don't want any followers. And he goes, then why are you on Facebook? I said, because I want to watch. I want to see what's going on. It's new. It's new. Right? We got the press release, we deploy. That's the point. Don't be afraid to try things, right? TikTok is one of the things I'm going to try. I don't like TikTok, but I'm going to, I'll get on there one day. But it's not my primary because my audience is not there. My audience is business to business people like you in the audience. And if you're on TikTok, you're probably not talking about things that I want to listen to, right? Oh, maybe you are, and I'm going to find out. But I'm on LinkedIn. We're going to talk about the channels in a minute. You are on the most powerful networking ever tool. It's the internet. The internet, email, website, and get professional guidance when you need it. Okay? Questions? How much time do we have? Oh, great. We've got time. Before this webinar, I emailed the attendees and they asked me some questions. I grouped them into different groups and I got a significant amount of questions. And if I don't get to all the questions, I will follow up with you if you email jim@interlinegroup.com, Jim, and I'll give you this in a moment. So here's some questions that we asked. Okay. Number one, how has social media evolved from a simple communications tool to an influential broadcast? Well, we talked about that throughout the whole webinar. It started out basically just posting about, oh, I had an operation and I feel great, to actually trying to post and become a thought leader. You want to become a thought leader, and you will not become a thought leader by posting about your recent operation. You're going to be a thought leader by posting about what's going on in your business. What's going on in your business? And you have to pick the right channels. You can do multiple channels, but your website is the single most important channel. Okay? Which social media platform is the most effective for business, and how has COVID shifted these trends? COVID is over, but it shifted not so much as made people move to the channels. And in my humble opinion, for business, LinkedIn is the most effective channel. I'm a big Twitter X guy. I've been a Twitter X guy for a long time. When Twitter first came out, used to call me Mr. Twit in the in the business. But I was, I'm an older guy, so I was dragged because I believed in print, but I was dragged kicking and screaming into the world of social media. And now, like everyone else, you included, you're addicted, right? So, in my opinion, LinkedIn is the most important platform outside of your website. Your social media platform is your website, LinkedIn, and then pick another channel. If you think Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, pick another channel. I wouldn't go more than that, right? What are the key differences between the social media for personal and business? And how do companies avoid blurring the lines? Well, we talked about that too in the webinar. You draw a line and you keep what's personal personal and keep your business social media channels for business. Strictly business. And I know sometimes you can't help but get personal, but that's okay. Look at LinkedIn. Look at what your competitors are doing on these channels. You all have competitors, pardon me, right? Look at their LinkedIn pages, not just the business pages, but the personal pages. The personal pages. Developing strategy with so much information, what are best practices to maintain credibility and trust on social media? Well, there's only one rule. Tell the truth. Best practices. The rule that we have in our company that I had for my copywriters is really very simple, and I'm going to share it with you. Ready? Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything stupid. If you think it's stupid, then don't do it. So what if I do it, Jim, and it turns out to be stupid? Well, you didn't think it through then. That would be my guess. So tell the truth and don't do stuff that's stupid, right? Remember, honey gets better. You don't criticize, just take a stand. And if you have to get personal, start a personal website. I have personal websites. I have business websites. And you keep them separate. What are some key factors to consider when creating a successful strategy? We talked about that, right? You need a plan. You need a strategy. Look at what other people are doing. Look at what your competitors are doing. What are you doing? Do you just follow the same kind of navigation? Well, here's my gallery. And you got a gallery, and your competitors have a gallery, and their competitors have. Everybody got a gallery. How many kitchens can you look at? What's different about yours? What's different? And how do you show that differentiation? Do you use close-up photography? Do you use wide-angle lenses? What do you do that's differently? Well, I just use my iPhone. That's good. And iPhone cameras today have come a long way. But if you're going to look professional, right? Ed Bean used to have a saying. He was a great guy. Had Sears for a client. Act big, think big, be big. Act big, think big, be big. Those are three things you should think about. You're not getting, if you're going to act big, you're going to need a professional photographer sometimes, right? And how can small business compete on a limited budget? Ladies and gentlemen, social media, the internet gives all of us the capability to compete against larger companies. When we started in business over 30 years ago and the internet came along, it, it's like Excel. Excel, the program, gives me the capability to compete with any business. Excel is God's gift to financial crunch, to number crunching. To number crunching. I remember when they used to have a limited number of rows in Excel. And then you couldn't, you were limited. Now you're unlimited. These channels give you the ability to only be limited by your own imagination. That's it. You are your limitation. If you say, well, I can't do this, well, then you can't do it. But these social media channels give you access to everybody, and especially with AI. With AI, you've all of a sudden with AI, you can have a copywriter, you can have an art director, you can have two or three of them, because that's how powerful this stuff is becoming. So I'm just saying, you better get with it, right? So identify and target the right audience. How do you do that? Well, look at the channel, call your audience. Which channels do they use? I could tell you some of my clients use mostly LinkedIn. Most of my clients, because they're B2B, use LinkedIn. And that's why LinkedIn, in my opinion, is the business platform. And so is its extension, its little brother, or its a bigger brother, Sales Navigator, if you haven't tried that. It's expensive, but there it is. It gives you the ability to network. How frequently should you post? Well, there's a great question. And that came in from more than one person. What do you think? You can email me, jim@interlinegroup.com. What do you think? How frequently? Well, I'll tell you how frequently. My belief is as often as you can. As often as you can. What does that mean? 5 times a day? As often as you can. But knowing time is limited, you can't do it. You won't do it. If you do that, you're not doing something else. And there are things like Social Pilot, things like that, right, that allow you to post on multiple platforms at the same time. I have a client who only wants to post once a week. Once a week. And that's okay. That's okay. That's better than not posting. So it's really up to you and your time constraints. What are the biggest challenges they face in social media in a post-COVID world, and how can they adapt? Well, the biggest challenges is finding business, and you find businesses by networking and being there when your prospects need what you're selling. Always be selling. David Ogilvy said that. Always be selling. Or as I should say, he said, we sell or else. We sell or else. Can you share a real life example of a business that successfully used social media? I have plenty of examples, not just to pivot from the pandemic, but you can learn from them. There's plenty of examples. Just throw them out there in the internet. And if you want to email me after this, I'd be happy to share some with you. We had a client who hired a big name social media agency. And then when they went, over to their corporate parent overseas in Europe to present, they were caught with their pants down. Why? Because the agency lied. The agency lied about the analytics to them. And then they reverted back and they came back to us. So remember, reliability of a narrator is very important. And we're nearing an hour, so I'd like to conclude. Thank you. This is a big thank you. Thank you for your time, your attention. Thank you for being there. If you have any questions, there's my email, jim@interlinegroup. You can call me, 358-4848. You can send interlinegroup.com evaluate, and I'll send you our guides. We've got guides for this and other courses that we have. And you can follow me on X at InterlineJim. If you pop that into the browser, it'll bring up my social channels. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. I hope you learned something, and I'll talk to you very soon. Have a great day.